Okay, we've gone through all 8 principles now. Midline, center gravity control, that makes physical advantage. We talked about the gathering, centripetal force and the heavy point, ground reactive force, and integration. Now, with an understanding of those concepts, even a simple understanding, you should be able to have a, make a basic assessment of any kind of movement. It doesn't really matter. I'm a golf guy, Howie's a baseball guy. But if you look at principles, that's one way of assessing it. Probably more interesting to coaches is you're going to be able to train principles based on your ability to think critically and creatively within those principles. Just with my golf guys, my guys are sort of limited to options that make sense within all the principles. We haven't had what you'd call a null hypothesis yet. Every time we've tried to fix something within the principles, it's worked. So what we want to do now is we want to move forward a little bit in talking about something that's really fundamental to generating power, and that's just a little bit of a focus on the ground reactive force component. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, same as before, I'm going to demonstrate an exercise, and then we'll get Howie to try it. Howie's the poor guinea pig, he hasn't had time to prepare for this. So I'll do it, and then we'll see like a little bit of monkey see, monkey do. So in the lateral throw, I'll demonstrate it to camera first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I'm going to turn a little bit towards the target with the ball still on midline. I'm going to jump set, and then I'm going to throw the ball. So I've always got it on my midline, and it looks like this. Start, jump set, throw. Okay? Go ahead, Howie. Yeah, so you can start, I'll start you off. So you're going to have it on midline, so you got your physical advantage. Just pre-turn yourself. Okay. And then jump set.
Do I jump back?
Yeah, you'll hold position, but you'll actually jump to load it.
Okay.
You go ahead and jump, and then throw.
Okay.
Okay. Generally pretty good. I'd say movement-wise pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that and make a couple of adjustments. Cool. So go ahead. So start like this. Yeah, and as you jump, go ahead and jump and just throw it over. Right from there, jump in the air. Good. Okay. Now, his tendencies in whatever sport he's going to play are going to come out. Now, I want to have him rotate on his midline and hands neutral, facing, right? Now, he's loaded up pretty well here. Now, his baseball sort of history is coming up, and that's how he turns, right? We'll get some people in the sport, if it's appropriate, to have the foot flat on the ground, but he's going to turn this way, so he fully loads. Now, what I'm going to say is, if he actually is able to externally rotate the thigh a little bit, you're going to load up better. Okay. As opposed to having it in here, got it. That's not loaded as much. And then what you're going to do once you've got it in physical advantage, right now what you're going to do is take your step, stride, and then throw it. Yeah.
Or shank it.
Or shank it. So that's just a heavy point release. Go ahead and try it again. Jump set, and I'll catch it on the rebound. Okay, so what Howie's doing is a version of the power throw and the lateral throw combined. So you're going to throw it just with hands facing.
Hands facing, yeah.
Go ahead and jump set, and then throw. Good. So he's got a lot of pretty good instincts. There isn't that too much lean. So some of the work that we've done up to this point is actually carrying over. I shouldn't say actually, it's carrying over. So what we're trying to do is learn from this. Now, because he did it pretty well, what I'll show you is the most common movement error. When we get almost everybody coming in to do the lateral throw, we'll do the demonstration and throw it. Now, what most people tend to do is this. They'll start here, they won't load fully, and then they'll get a high center of gravity and throw it. It's very common for me to see that. And that obviously leads to some of those other swing faults or hitting faults that you might have. So here's the idea. Once I jump set, I've loaded my back leg. This is really an athletic sort of loaded position for a lot of different sports. My legs are going to have this sort of configuration whether I'm hitting a tennis ball, loading up, golf ball. You know, if I'm ready to hit a baseball, I'm going to load in a similar, not probably exactly the same fashion, because you got to take a look at foot position and all that type of thing, but essentially I'm going to be loaded to hit something. I call that athletic loading. I need to take time to do that. So I set up, and then from here, what I need to do to generate ground reactive force is not go high and lateral. I need to jump set, and then what I need to do is get my center of gravity lower to throw it. So I'll throw it to Howie here. I jump set, and then lower to throw it. That way I'm able to lower my center of gravity, generate power off the ground, and if I was throwing it this way, if I jump set, and then I move through, my feet can be flatter on the ground. That's going to be one of the giveaways. If I do it wrong, my foot will look like this, and my center of gravity will be noticeably higher. So I don't necessarily have to stay low through the whole motion. I have to be able to load low and then come up. The nature of my leg action, if I turn behind it, is this. My hips are level. If I'm setting up, they may be level, they may be tilted. But when I make this turn, this side of my pelvis is higher than this side of my pelvis. This knee is lower than this knee. So to make a transition back, to hit it powerfully, as I transition through, when my midline gets to the midpoint of my feet, my knees are essentially equal flex. As I move my midline closer to this side, now my center of gravity is effectively traveling uphill. That'll slow it. That effectively blocks my pelvis, and then I release my upper body over it. In almost every sport where you're hitting, that's a configuration as long as you're using both legs, right? So it's loaded, and the best way for me to make my transition with power is as it comes through, stay behind it. Now I can actually use my spine properly, but I need to be able to use my legs to set that up. So a lot of golfers swing faults, baseball, if I'm ahead of it or I'm early, I need to understand that this is how my legs actually work. Now, in line with that, if I take a look at my spinal mechanics, there's something called Fayette's law. It's a law of skeletal anatomy. So Fayette's law says if I'm side bending and extending, rotation will actually happen. Side bending or flexing or extending, rotation will happen to the opposite side, so through my thoracic spine. So if I'm here and I'm going to hit a ball, so Howie, you're swinging that way, right? So if he's set up and he has enough side bending and he's actually extends, so he extends his spine like this, right? So go ahead as you're coming through. The extension and the side bending that he's got will actually promote rotation, counter rotation, so rotation to this side. Now if he gets into a position where he leans this way, the rotation, the mechanics of his spine don't dictate that he's going to be able to rotate with the same amount of efficiency. That's a big thing. That's a baseball world. Golf is the same thing. Side bending and extension allow me to be behind, and it creates rotation. And anybody that's good at golf will tell you that they get around super fast when they stay behind the ball. It's not getting it here and then trying to save it with my arms and hands. So a really sort of a cursory understanding of the movement principles behind how you use your legs and how you use your spine in conjunction with that are going to make it easy for you to train. If you use those principles that we described and you have an understanding of functional biomechanics, then what you'll be able to do is think through a training program. Think through the advice that you might take from somebody on hitting or throwing or even catching using the gather principle. All right? So what we'll do is let's try the lateral throw again. All right. Okay? With that understanding.
Just with that, just keep it simple?
Yeah. So now what we try to go back to rhythm. So you're just going to jump set. So you have set the ball in midline, just turn roughly to the target. Jump set, and then just feel yourself lower and throw it. That's going to be your sense. So rotate over. Yeah. Start from here. So you can throw it back, and then plant and throw. Yep. Good. And you can rotate as much on your follow through as you want.
Okay. God, that feels weird.
Yeah. Now, the weird feeling, and he's getting a lot of what good athletes will find, he has to be comfortable with spending as much time in a loaded position as he wants, because otherwise you're off balance. If you don't fully load, it's going to feel weird. But if you get fully loaded to there, it's going to feel like this is comfortable, I could be here all day. Whereas if you're off balance, it's always going to feel funny. Okay? So make sure you're fully loaded and it'll feel good. Much better. So mechanically, movement quality-wise, I like that a lot better. Is it different for you?
And I can feel I'm stopping on the follow-through, like, to make sure I release it there instead of, like you said, trusting it. And
yeah. So now you're going to apply a heavy point. Apply the heavy point so when it's moving fast, let go of it, and then just let it all follow through.
Okay.
Go ahead. There you go. That's more athletic, right? So now what happens is instead of getting constrained by where's my hands, where are my arms positioned relative to another, now he's just trying to apply the principles, trying to feel the ground load and just let it eat. So you can throw it on a bit of an angle so it doesn't come back at you too fast, and then I'll catch it. So go ahead, same thing, jump set, footwork, boom, there you go. And that starts to look more like Howie's hitting action.
Definitely.
Or how we'd like it to look. All right, so what we'll do is we'll do another exercise called the power throw, just to follow up with the lateral throw. Now we've done this a little bit before, so Howie's got a head start. Now the power throw is just slightly different from the lateral throw in the sense that, and this is how it developed, when we did the power throw, or the lateral throw, and started, what we found was a lot of people tended to lean because, like we said, we're upper body dominant society. One of my little guys, I'm right-handed, started to throw it like this. And instead of thinking it was a mistake, because most of my drills are client-driven, somebody walks through the door, they have a problem, we try to figure something out for them. Instead of saying you're doing that drill wrong, there was a possibility that maybe there was more out there. So we started to call it the power throw. All right, so go ahead. Now the power throw is different from the lateral throw. Your hands are going to be in this orientation, but because you're actually going to load it on an angle, they're still neutral to your midline, and then you're just going to release it. So go ahead and do the power throw.
Can you walk me, so that's...
Yeah. So it's going to be very similar. So what you're going to do is start, this is the first starting position, cross over, load the back leg, stride, and then throw.
Got it.
Okay? Know where to go and then throw it. So I should throw it on an angle so it doesn't come back as quickly. Now, what this throw does that the lateral throw doesn't do is it limits a person's ability to lead with their upper body because of the lower body positioning and how it works. What we've taken to doing is slowing it down and breaking it into pieces. Whether it's a golf swing, I imagine baseball is the same, a lot of other different sports, they talk about sequencing of a motion. So sequencing implies a couple of things at a minimum. It implies events and it implies order. So if you don't know what the events are, it's pretty hard to put anything in order. So the analogy is to say a song, it could be popular music, could be something that a lot of people know. Say there's 6 notes in this song. If you play the 6 notes correctly in a rhythm that's sort of recognizable, people will know it's that song, right? But if you play the notes in a different order, it's not your way of playing a song, it's a different tune. Or it may not be, it could be just chaos. So what we want to do is we want to we're using the principles to get fully athletically loaded, load the ground. So all of the principles are being applied in what we call the 6-note power throw. Okay, so Howie can do it because he's left-handed. So throw it on maybe on a little bit of an angle.
Okay.
So the first note is this. The first note is in front. That's note 1. The second note, as he starts to load his back leg, is just a crossover. Now, the third note is standing single-legged, right, loading the back leg. That's equivalent to loading in any sport. Now, the fourth note is center gravity control, lowering, just lower onto that leg. Now, the fifth note is the stride. Good. And then the sixth note is the rotation, the throw. Right. So it's same as musical scales. If I actually understand the events and I understand the order, then I should be able to play this. Essentially, it's like a scale, like a musical scale. I should be able to play it extremely slowly, almost unrecognizably slow, or blindingly fast. So the analogy is one of my kids plays piano, but not any other sports. And I said, well, what happened? Like, you play piano, so you have to play scales every day. I said, what if you don't play your scales every day? She said, I don't play piano very well. So med ball is like scales for, say, baseball, or scale hitting, or scales for golf. So what our guys do is they'll be able to get, 600 to 1,000 reps in a session that are all really fundamentally biomechanically correct within the principles, and that's how we start to build a base for performance. So if we don't get the reps, it's not for not trying, especially here. The golfers have the same difficulty that baseball players have. It's difficult for them to practice with a club because they're thinking so much about club face. The reality is, if your body's out of position, the club face is going to be the tail that's wagged by the dog. So what we want to do is make sure the body mechanics are working well. So let's go ahead and do that one more time just for clarity, right? So you've got note 1 on your midline. Note 2, crossing over, going towards leading the back leg. Note 3, fully loaded. Note 4, lowering for center gravity control. Note 5, the stride. And note 6, the throw. So what you can do with an understanding of the principles is you can take it over to your sport. I'm golf, Howie's baseball. Maybe you want to play tennis. Maybe you want to just throw a ball a particular way. It's going to be the same type of thing. If I want to load, and what you'll notice is this, that athletic weighting that we talked about to counteract the high center gravity lateral drift is going to be the same. Say I want to pitch, or I want to hit this way. The more fully I can load, get control, lower for center of gravity control, still be in position. Now I'm actually not ahead of anything. I can still throw and release. The instinct, if I don't stride this way, is to go this way, open early and be too high. And I know I can't generate ground reactive force like that. I'm totally out of position, and I have no physical resources to make a powerful throw that way.
Yeah, tons of parallels with, with baseball, and just watching you do that, it's when the bat's in hand. You said about club face with golf. Baseball is very similar in that it's always, the point of contact and all these other things that, sort out the main issue, and then the details will fall into place. And I think we attack it in the wrong order a lot of times.
Yeah, a fundamental fix, like we said, fundamentals are finite. If we make sure all of our fundamentals or principles are in order, then we know the compensations will more than likely fall in line, and that's been really consistent in working with a lot of different athletes. If we start to try to do compensation fixes only, then it's going to be one compensation fix to the next.
Band-Aid.
Yeah, it's a Band-Aid fix. It's a revolving door syndrome. And then the other thing is, say you're a therapist and a coach, if you don't understand the mechanism of injury, you're in trouble. If you don't understand the technique-related mechanism of injury, then it's also going to be very tough for you to have success long-term with your athletes. And I think that wraps up sort of this approach to using the ground and applying all of the principles together for transfer to sort of multiple rotational power sports.